Welcome back to a new YouTube video. In today's video I have the round 1 of the match for the World Championship match between Boris Spassky and Robin James Fischer. Boris Spassky with the white pieces and Fischer with the black pieces. White start with d4 and black respond with f6. And how we can see, they are playing all the book move. They are the better of the world since then, and all these moves are standard. And we have a Nimso Indian defense, and all these moves has been standard. And the first move that isn't standard is knight e2, preparing to reroute the knight to g3. Let's see if Bobby Fischer will allow white to do what we want and take the pawn. And this bishop now is a monster, controlling all these big diagonal, and a difference of this bishop that is not doing anything than preventing to this pawn take this pawn, and now white is up a pawn, and he does. And first they trade their queens and take the pawn. According to those fish, this is a great move, but on a human perspective, this is the only move. Otherwise, white would be up a pawn and push the pawn. And now white kick out the bishop that has to retreat to another square, maybe less active. And how we can see, e7 is less active, but this will be doing something and preventing this square, and in a future prepare the trade of rooks. And bishop b2, very strong move. Now white has the pair of bishop, very good positioned in the board. Bishop d8 develop the bishop, but this move has to function in the same time. Is developing the bishop and preparing rook d8 to start to trade pieces. It's a very principle of all chess players that when you have less space in the board, you only have to be worried about trading pieces. And it's a very known phrase of Ben Feingold: less pieces, less problems. And he does. Now the white pieces are very good. The pair of bishop is in the optimal diagonal. This knight is, for the moment, they are not doing anything, but in any moment can jump to a more active position. And he does tip the rook, and he is the only thing that black can be advocate. Knight goes to d4. It's not a good move according to my point of view, because now white has the better pieces, and obviously he doesn't want to trade pieces, and this is inviting black to go for the white knight, and he does. And now this is even for both sides. Trade the knight. It would be better to take with the bishop, because this knight is not doing anything here, and is stopping the big diagonal for this bishop. And he does. This is an accuracy, but according to my point of view, this move is doing something very good. He's creating problem for white. Now this bishop can go to a safer square and preparing to trade the bishop, the white bishop, and he does. And now the problem for black is being resolved. Now the only optimal piece for white is this bishop that at the moment is not doing something for the. I could say that was a blunder, because now this knight is only stopping the open file for this rook, and now is a fact that the rook will be traded in a future, and he takes, and now the position is even and it's a dead draw, and he does. It would be better for black to go to d8, because now without rook is unlikely for white to create problems, and if you draw with the black pieces isn't too bad, and it's better to draw that lose. And they both active their king. We have reached the end game of the game. Now this king goes to e2. Stockfield was suggesting that this bishop should trade this knight, and it's a very good move, because if this bishop trades for the other bishop, it will be a dead draw. And Boris Spassky tell Fischer, hey, I want to trade the rook, and now this will be a game of bishop versus bishop and knight versus knight, and they do that. This knight is creating problems. It's not threatening in general to take this pawn. Is only to tell Fischer, okay, I want you to play b6 and creating weakness in your position, because your position is too solid, and I push a pawn, and now my pawns are weak, and this bishop is the wrong color for the pawns, and they improve the king a little bit. Knight retreats, bishop goes to the c7, and take and trade the knights, and now this is a game of bishop, very equal position, and this would be a dead draw for both sides. Is unlikely to create problems and take the pawn. This is a very aggressive move for black. Take the pawn with the risk of being trapped with g3, and though this king is far away of the action, this king can go and take the bishop. But if this king is not too far, Fischer can push the pawn and save the bishop. He goes for the trap, and they push the pawn, and the king goes to e2, and again this is a trap of bishop, very known in nowadays. But again, this is not something that Bobby Fischer means. He wants this will happen. He will calculate this very good, and they do a trade of pawn, and now the king takes the bishop, and this bishop is now gone, and now black only has 2 pawns by the bishop, and we will see if that is enough compensation. And if this pawn in specific doesn't exist, it would be a very intelligent game and almost over for white. But this single pawn is going to create problems. King goes to activate himself, and this is a very strong move. Let's come back. Now this king cannot take this pawn, and now this bishop is preparing to defend this pawn. And when I was analyzing this game, I was thinking, why not push this pawn and go for this pawn? Because this bishop will be trapped or allowed lose the pawn. But this lose in the spot. This bishop is going to sacrifice himself for the pawn, and at least one of this pawn is going to become a queen. So therefore that is not going to happen, and he pushed the pawn. But again, now that these pawns are weak, but Bobby Fischer has an option here, or otherwise he was going to lose the pawn and this game will be over. Pawn, push the pawn. This is a blunder because now these pawns are no longer connected, and only for this pawn, and he takes. Now all is about this pawn. If this pawn disappears, the game is over. He protects the pawn, and here it could be push the pawn on g6 and see what happens. But Bobby Fischer goes for attacking the bishop, and this bishop can go practically wherever he wants. He goes to f2, and now Bobby Fischer pushed the pawn and goes for activate himself. Now this king is very active and positioned in the best square of the board. Now this bishop can wants to go for this side of the board, but this would be so slow. This king first is going to take this pawn and come back, and remember that this king cannot do anything because this pawn is being protected by the bishop. Bishop goes to f2, very strong move. Now this bishop cannot be captured in any moment, and he goes for g5. This is a not too bad move, but again black pieces cannot move any piece, and this king have to move or a pawn. But Bobby Fischer thought that this pawn would be more important than this one, and therefore pushed the pawn to invite white to take this pawn and push this pawn in a future. And we have this. Now Bobby takes the one of the remaining pawns, but this game is far of over. Now this bishop is very strong, and white simple cannot do anything, and this king was going to take this pawn, and this game is over, and Boris Spassky wins the first match, and and this shows that he's very strong player, and this was not going to be easy for Bobby Fischer to take the championship. And it's all for today. Thank you so much for listening me, and see you the next video. Bye.